Dude, like, look at this. Look. Dude, the color scheme with the red, the black, and the blue. There is so much detail put into this that honestly, it blows my mind. Because you realize the way the colors just mesh so well together makes this sequence look just so incredible. The black and blue just looks so good, especially when you see like the red and stuff appear on the blade. It's so good. And then like the bear being like white fur, and then you have like the blood stains on it. It just, yeah, man, like the amount of effort and detail put into this scene is insane. Like, actually insane. Seriously, pay these animators more. They need to be paid more because there is just so much effort that has been put into this sequence. Honestly, just this entire episode, but this sequence in particular is pretty insane because the way they are able to make the summon of Igris, like, it looks shadowy. Like, he's a mixture of, like, he looks like he's CGI, but he's not CGI. And then, like, the way the shadows of his cape just move around and all that, to the way the blade looks, it's very shining, but it doesn't distract from the overall design of the character. It's a phenomenal character design. And obviously, this was the color palette within the webcomic of Soul Leveling, but seeing it in movement, it looks so good, because it's like, you could say whatever you want about Soul Leveling. Like, you could say you don't like the story, you could say you don't like the characters, you could say you don't like the fantasy, whatever, you get the point. But I think if there is one thing in particular no one can really deny when it comes to Soul Leveling, unless you're wanting to troll, is definitely the character designs. The character designs legitimately are amazing. Like, it's actually so good. And I think that the perfect representation is literally this fight right here. The way the colors just mesh so well in this fight, it's just like, I don't know if it was intentional, obviously, when the actual artist/writer did this for the first time in Soul Leveling, but the way the colors mesh so perfectly well, especially with the red top as well, it's so good, man. It's legit amazing. But, okay, let's get into it. So, Soul Leveling is back. Obviously, I'm singing its praises, I'm hyped up, and I just watched, this latest episode. This is episode 1 of season 2, and technically episode 13, because, Crunchyroll likes to order their stuff like this. But anyways, Soul Leveling is back, and a lot of people seem to be kind of whiplashed by that. Not a lot of people apparently seem to have been aware that Soul Leveling was returning today, but yeah, it is returned. It's back, and we can expect it literally every single Saturday for this entire anime season. Incredible news. Now, there is a few things I do want to point out. So, obviously, Soul Leveling, if you are unaware, they are being animated by A1 Pictures. Producers are Aniplex. So, I do hope that, in general, I'm not thinking this is going to happen, because obviously I feel like there was that whole break between Season 1 and Season 2 was definitely there to give more time. But you always need to take it with a grain of salt that since this is A1 Pictures underneath the, Aniplex producer, there is a potential possibility there could be some delays or production issues. I hope not. I don't want to doom post. I don't want to put that bad mojo onto Soul Leveling. But obviously, that could definitely happen. So do keep aware of that, especially when you just see how great this episode looks. I hope that the animators are able to keep up and produce this on a well-scheduled time, and they have enough time to do it and all that, because we have been down this, road before when it comes to A1 working on something underneath Aniplex. So we know how this usually goes. But getting off of that for a second, we need to talk about just how this opening sequence of Soul Leveling is. It is just such a nice return to what we all expect from the series at this point, and this is when Soul Leveling really does become what its actual series is. Because, like, when I was reviewing Soul Leveling Season 1, I remember a lot of people are like, what's going on? Is this really why everybody's hyped for the series? Because obviously it was cool, but it didn't get to the main point to where the series became what it truly was, where the story really starts to pick up. And that is when Jinwoo, our MC, he is capable of summoning shadows. He's able to use basically necromantic-like abilities, and that is what we clearly see going on within this episode. With the fights and stuff, we get to see him fully utilize these new abilities he got at the end of of Season 1, and it's really freaking cool. The color palette to them, the way they move, the way they're even destroyed and they turn into like this shadowy mist and then they reform again, it's just nice. It is a really nice sequence to showcase what he's becoming, how strong he's becoming, but also now we finally get the full extension of his abilities instead of what we were just seeing at the beginning of Season 1. So yeah, we could see how he has grown considerably since then. And also his moniker of soul leveling, the title of the series, it makes a lot more sense, because, like, if you're a necromancer, you're able to, like, use shadows and summons and stuff, you technically don't need a party. I mean, think about this. Like, let's really put this into, consideration. There was a lot of world building and lore we got with, Season 1, that only a certain amount of people could enter into certain gates. Like, you need, like, 10 or 5 members or whatever. You need enough members to enter into a gate. So, theoretically, if he could skirt around it, he could use his summons as members. So, he can easily get into gates and say he has enough members and stuff to get into something. So, like, he can easily soul level and take gates on his own, since he's capable of magic like this. He's capable of summoning things to be able to fight for him, and basically indefinitely summon them as long as he has mana. And to be fair, he definitely probably has mana potions and stuff to be able to get his mana back, so it's definitely going to be relatively easy for him to maintain his summons. And one thing I want to point out with this episode is that this entire fight with the bears and stuff was definitely SUng Jinwoo trying to test the extent of how far he could go with just, like, probably 1 mana bar. He was like, okay, so I'm curious to see, like, if my summons are fighting something as strong as this, and they're getting constantly destroyed and wiped out and all that, how long could his mana theoretically keep up? But one thing that is very interesting about this, it seems like as long as they don't get destroyed, his mana won't go down. And I think that was a big indicator that you saw within this episode, because once all of his summons basically get wiped out and he confirms that, like, he can't reform them again, he has Igris go in and start fighting, like, the main badass bear within this episode. And we know at that moment he had, like, 0 mana unless he regenerated it. So because of that moment, it means that as long as his shadows don't take damage, there is no mana drain, which that's insane. So that means that theoretically, if he gets very strong shadow summons and they don't take a lot of damage, he has infinite mana. He doesn't even need to raise a finger. He can just let his summons do everything for him, and he can sit back and just drink mana potions if he really needs to, if he loses mana. So it's not necessarily anything that bad. So yeah, he's becoming incredibly broken, which makes sense for the story called Solo Leveling. It's very thematic, makes a lot of sense, and I think that in general, it's a nice upgrade for him. But also, Igris as a character, we gotta talk about that. So, we know that the trophy, the victory that Jinwoo got at the end of Season 1 was fighting the boss, aka Igris, this man right here, and he was a very tough foe. It was an incredible fight, and he was incredibly powerful. And one thing I love about this fight, and that it showcases to the audience, is that he's not been nerfed. And there's an obvious meme within, like, gaming and stuff, like, where you fight a boss, and then that boss you get as a playable character, and the boss is just, like, 5% of its actual power it was as a boss. Well, it seems like that meme isn't applied to soul leveling, because Igris is just as powerful as he was when he fought Jinwoo, and probably can grow a lot stronger because of just Jinwoo's abilities. If he upgrades these abilities and stuff, they can grow exponentially, get a lot stronger, and so the gap will widen even further. So it's like he's going to become even stronger, basically, as a boss-like summon, which is insane. Like, actually insane. So honestly, with the abilities and stuff that he's now has access to, he can summon stuff and all that. If I was Jinwoo, I would try to really get every boss I encounter into a gate as a summon, as a shadow, because seeing what Igris is capable of, imagine other summons. Like, imagine if he would get other crazy bosses and stuff under his command. The abilities and traits and stuff they would have could definitely be extremely beneficial for him if he was able to get them as an actual summon. Now, with all that being said, we need to talk about the overarching plot that's being set up with this episode, so let's dive into that. So the overarching plot that we've been getting is this man right here. He is actively hunting after Jinwoo. Now, why is he? Because obviously it's been a while. It's been a year. it's been a while since, season 1. So I want to remind those that are kind of forgotten. This man is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a long time since I read the original source material, but I know he's the brother of the man that got killed in the previous episodes at the end of season 1. You remember when Jinwoo had to kill humans for the first time and stuff, and, you had the party leader that was really crazy and stuff? Well, basically, that was the brother of this man. And so, obviously, he wants vengeance. He wants to get back at Jinwoo for, having, killing his brother. He assumes his brother was killed by Jinwoo or something happened within the dungeon. So, that is why he's hunting after him. That is the overarching plot point. This man's incredibly powerful. He's very strong. Definitely way above anything that, Jinwoo has encountered to this very moment. I mean, obviously, that could potentially change within this dungeon since it's a red gate, but at this very moment, though, this man is incredibly powerful and you gotta take him very seriously. So the thing is that it seems like the plot is building up for him having to kill another human being, and it's gonna be an even more powerful person than it was in the past. Which, here's another thing, now that he has a lot more magic, aka Jinwoo has like shadow magic, like necromancy and stuff, he definitely has an army he can just throw at this man. And Igris is incredibly powerful, so when you factor that in, could this man tank Igris? Is he stronger than him? Makes you wonder. But, yeah, that's where the plot is currently building up, and then the long-term plot is building up to, like, the island with the ants, and how they're able to fly from the island. That is what was, once again, kind of reinstated at the beginning of this episode, that those ants are evolving, and if, time continues to pass, they'll eventually be able to fly to the mainland, and obviously that wouldn't be good, having, like, these giant super creatures being able to wander the streets and basically killing everyone. Bad news. So, yeah, I mean, the plot is definitely set up nicely with this episode. It reminds everybody of what's going on. We got the reintroduction of some characters. Jinwoo gets established as a person. We get to see that, in general, no matter where he goes, whatever gate he goes in, just bad news follows him. Because I like how the entire intention of this gate, him taking this girl into the gate, was him wanting to scare her into not wanting to be a, let's say, hunter anymore, but he looked at the entire member cast, like there was A ranks and stuff, and he was like, oh, this might be too easy, so she might not get actually traumatized or anything, and she might want to continue being a hunter. But as soon as he enters into the gate, like 30 seconds later, the gate turns red, and it's just like, that's hilarious, because it's like, what ironic timing. He was worried that it would be too easy, but then a red gate appears that literally locks them all in there, and months can pass while, everybody else is outside of the gate. Like, maybe a few hours have passed while months pass inside. So, it's crazy. It's legitimately insane. I have to wonder, like, does bad things follow Jinwoo? Like, is this intentional? Or is it just coincidence that this is happening? It does make you wonder. But I'm going to leave it at that. Great start to solo leveling. Amazing stuff. It is going to be fun talking about this every single week now going forward on a Saturday. Cannot wait to see episode 2 of season 2. But I'll leave it at that. Love you guys. Be safe. Stay healthy. Chibi out.